Terima kasih banyak Pak Pahala. Thank you for having me in this prestigious forum. A very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be here. Perhaps since the time is limited, let me just focus to respond what some issues has been raised by Pak Pahala. Perhaps it is good if we can talk about these economic situations more in continuity on the short term, medium term, and also in the long term. So I do believe that the governor of the central bank, I just arrived a couple of minutes ago, but I do believe in his remarks he would mention about the problem on the current account deficit. I believe that because that's really the main problems that we are facing now. But let me give a framework on what the government is doing and also the central bank is doing in addressing the issue. The first one is, in the short term, I think the strategy or the policy that we choose is stabilization over growth. I do understand that not many people are quite happy with this policy because we have to slow down the economic growth, and I would say it was by design because we had a problem on the current account deficit. On the second quarter last year, we had a current account deficit around 4.4% of GDP, was around $10 billion. We've been able to lower the current account deficit to become $4 billion in the last quarter, and this first quarter of 2014, we've been able to maintain this current account deficit around $4 billion. So basically, we've been able to handle this issue by a combination of the three policies. The first one is tightening on the fiscal side. We adjusted the fuel price by 44%. Bank Indonesia raised the interest rate by 175 basis points. And we let the exchange rate to depreciate. It's more or less until the beginning of this year was around 26%, but this year to date, I think the rupiah gained around almost 6%, so more or less now about 19%. But the question is, this kind of policy will not be sustainable. Yeah, why? Because we only really focus on the demand side. In the medium term, we need to address the issue on the supply side. Why I raise this issue? Let me talk. Apologize for this, but let me talk in a bit technical with number. Yeah. In the economics, we do understand about the concept of this incremental capital output ratio. So if one country wants to grow by 1%, they require investment over GDP a certain percent. In the case of Indonesia now, the investment over GDP, the capital output ratio is around 5.3. So if this country would like to grow by 7% in order to produce jobs, to reduce poverty, then we need investment over GDP 7 multiplied by 5.3. So it means that we need investment over GDP around 38%. The second one, if Indonesia cannot continue to rely on natural resources and cheap labor, then the solution will be on the human capital. Yeah, and this is very important because if you look at the history of economic development, there were three countries that entered the middle income level. It was Brazil, South Africa, and South Korea, and only South Korea managed to be. The other thing is, we do understand that improving this human capital, we need a good people as well, a good student. So this year, well, since a year ago, I think, we already allocated endowment fund about $1.4 billion. It's around 16 trillion rupiah. And we invested this money in banks, in government bonds. So basically, the return of investing this endowment fund is around 1.2 trillion per year. So we use this money by providing a scholarship for any Indonesian who get accepted in the top 200 universities. The last part is improvement on the institutional, on the governance. So if we want to increase the productivity, it needs to be supported by the strong institution. I do believe that the future of comparative advantage will no longer physical assets. The investors in the future will distinguish country by country, not based on the physical capital, but because the intangible asset is policy. And this needs to be supported by the good governance. So that is why in doing the reform, I think it's better start with something very small. In the tax office, we introduce the screen pajak, the e-filing. We try to lower the dwelling time in the custom area. I know this is something small, but at least it will give a gestures in order to sort of like to support improvement on the supply side. I think I'll stop it here. Yeah, thank you very much.
Congratulate the Mandiri for the establishment of the Mandiri Institute. It's very timely, taking into consideration a lot of issues, not only at the global level, but also at the domestic level. I hope in the future the Mandiri Institute will respond and answer questions. The first one is about, to answer the issues on growth and more quality development, more participative economic development, and high quality growth. I think as far as the financial sector concerned, is about how to improve access to finance for all peoples of Indonesia. So this is very important, to have more participative in the financial sector, easily access. So creating financial sector will become more inclusive. And of course, with the improvement access to finance, I do believe that the economic development will be more participative. So the first topic is basically how to make sure that what developed as far as the financial sector in Indonesia or banking sector in Indonesia is creating more inclusive, easily access. So it's becoming a very important topic at the moment. Access to finance is very important because still very high portion of our people don't have formal access to financial services. I think this is very important issues. That's why then what we would like to develop is basically how to be able to develop more inclusive finance and then increasing literacy level so they have a good access. And I think this is very much the issues. So if I'm talking about this access to finance, meaning that it is not only banking services but also other financial services. That's perhaps the issues of number one that I would like to touch a little bit later on about this.